When 12-year-old Xavier Musk decided to bring home a soaking wet homeless boy he'd met at the library, no one expected it to forever alter the Musk family. What began as a simple act of kindness on a rainy Tuesday afternoon would reveal a shocking truth that left even the world's wealthiest man speechless. Because the boy Xavier rescued from the streets was no ordinary homeless kid. He was someone who would upend Elon Musk's carefully controlled world. Rain pelted the tall windows of the Musk mansion. Mrs. Winters checked her watch again. It was 4:15 p.m. Xavier was late. Unlike his brothers and sisters, 12-year-old Xavier Musk despised getting picked up from school in flashy cars. He explained that walking helped him think. "Should I call Mr. Musk?" asked Thomas, a security guard. Mrs. Winters shakes her head. "Give him 10 more minutes. You know how Xavier enjoys stopping to look at bugs and plants." Right then, the front door security panel beeped. The monitor showed Xavier's wet face looking up at the camera. But he was not alone. "I'm home, Mrs. Winters. And I brought a friend to dinner." Xavier's voice crackled through the speaker. Mrs. Winters pushed the button to unlock the door. "A friend? He didn't tell us he was bringing anyone home." The massive front door swung open, and Xavier rushed inside, dripping water everywhere. Behind him stood a boy who appeared to be about 13. He had dark hair stuck to his head from the rain. Mrs. Winters could see through the holes in his sneakers to his wet socks. He carried a backpack that appeared to be stuffed full, and his thin jacket did nothing to keep him dry. "Mrs. Winters, this is Finn. He's going to join us for dinner tonight," Xavier announced, shaking his wet hair like a dog. Mrs. Winters tried to maintain a friendly demeanor, but inside she was terrified. Mr. Musk had not mentioned any dinner guests, and this boy clearly did not attend Xavier's private school. His clothes were worn, and he had a look in his eyes that Mrs. Winters recognized from her previous work at a youth shelter before joining the Musk family. "Hello, Finn," she said kindly. "Let's get you boys dried off first." Finn did not venture further into the house. He said quietly, "I can wait outside if it's a problem." Xavier just suggested I get something to eat. "Nonsense." Xavier took Finn's arm and pulled him inside. "Dad will not mind. He's always saying we should help others." Mrs. Winters gave Thomas a look, and he nodded before heading to his security office. He would quietly alert the other employees. "Follow me, boys. Let us get you some dry clothes. Finn, you appear to be roughly the same size as Xavier's older brother. I'm confident we can find something suitable." Mrs. Winters noticed Finn's wide-eyed stare as they walked through the massive entry hall. The ceiling rose 3 stories above them, with a massive staircase curved up to the second floor. They could see beautiful furniture, large TVs, and cutting-edge technology through the open doors. Finn whispered to Xavier, "Your house is like a museum." Xavier laughed. "Wait until you see my room. I have a slide that leads from my bedroom to the game room." While the boys were talking, Mrs. Winters texted Mr. Musk's personal assistant. "Xavier brought home an unknown boy. Appears to be homeless. Please advise." She led the boys into a spacious bathroom with heated floors and fluffy towels stacked on shelves. "Xavier, show Finn where everything is. I will bring some dry clothing." Mrs. Winters found Thomas in the hallway, waiting for her. "I've got eyes on them via the security system," he said quietly. "The boy does not appear to be dangerous, but I have informed the rest of the team." "Thank you, Tom. Is there any word from Mr. Musk?" "His assistant says he's at an important meeting about the Mars project. I cannot be disturbed for at least another hour." Mrs. Winters sighed. "I can't just throw the poor boy back in the rain. Let us get him some food at least." She gathered dry clothes and brought them to the bathroom door, knocking gently. "I'll leave these here for you, Finn. Come down to the kitchen when you're ready." 20 minutes later, the boys appeared in the kitchen. Finn wore jeans and a sweatshirt that were slightly too large, but clean and dry. His wet clothes and shoes were bundled in his arms, but he still held his backpack. Mrs. Winters pointed to his wet clothes and said, "You can put them in the dryer." "I'm fine," Finn said, clutching them tighter. "These are good enough." Mrs. Winters recognized the expression of someone who was unwilling to part with their only possessions, even temporarily. "As you wish. Are you hungry?" Finn nodded, his gaze fixed on the plate of sandwiches that Chef Marco had quickly prepared. There were also fruit, chips, and cookies. "Go ahead," Xavier said, taking a sandwich for himself. "Chef Marco prepares the best food ever." Finn delicately picked up a sandwich and took a small bite. Then, as if he couldn't stop himself, he took 3 large bites in a row. "When did you last eat, Finn?" Mrs. Winters asked gently. Finn swallowed and wiped his lips with the back of his hand. "Yesterday. The library where I go was closed today for a special event." Mrs. Winters and Chef Marco exchanged glances. "How did you meet?" Chef Marco inquired, sliding additional food toward Finn. Xavier said this in the library while munching on chips. "Finn knows everything about rockets, even more than I do. I'm the rocket guy's son." He laughed. Finn smiled slightly. "I've just read a lot. The library allows me to stay all day." Mrs. Winters' phone buzzed right then. It was a text from Mr. Musk, not his assistant. "Tell Xavier I'll be home in 20 minutes. Do not let his friend leave." Mrs. Winters almost dropped her phone. Mr. Musk never left meetings early, particularly those about Mars. "Boys," she said, attempting to keep her tone casual. "Mr. Musk will return home soon. He is looking forward to meeting you, Finn." Finn almost choked on his sandwich. "Is Elon Musk coming here? Now? Is this because of me?" His face turned pale. "Perhaps I should go. I don't want to cause problems." "No way." Xavier grabbed Finn's arm. "Dad wants to meet you. He never wants to meet my friends. This is really cool." Mrs. Winters watched as the kitchen staff pretended to be busy while stealing glances at Finn. The unexpected visitor had quickly become known throughout the mansion. Everyone was curious about the boy who had somehow piqued Xavier's interest. And now, it appears, Elon Musk is as well. Mrs. Winters wondered what had prompted Mr. Musk to rush home. In all of her years working for the family, she had never seen him change his schedule for something like this. The minutes passed slowly, and then they heard it. A quiet hum as an electric car pulls into the garage. Mr. Musk was home. The kitchen became silent as footsteps approached. Finn stared at the doorway, his half-eaten sandwich left on his plate. Xavier bounced on his toes, eager to introduce his new friend. Mrs. Winters adjusted her apron and stood up straighter. Everyone in the Musk household understood that their boss valued efficiency and disliked wasting time. Whatever had brought him home so early had to be important. But when Elon Musk appeared in the doorway, he didn't rush in as he usually does. Instead, he paused, shifting his gaze from his son to the unfamiliar boy sitting on his kitchen counter. "Dad!" Xavier ran to his father. "You are home early. This is Finn, the friend I was talking about. The person who knows everything about rockets." Elon placed a hand on Xavier's shoulder while keeping his gaze on Finn. "Hello, Finn. I hear you'll be joining us for dinner tonight." Finn stood up quickly, almost knocking over his stool. "Sir, Mr. Musk, I did not intend to cause any trouble. Xavier just told me I could get something to eat, but I can leave now." He reached for his still damp backpack. "No need," Elon replied, his voice surprisingly gentle. "Finish your meal. Mrs. Winters, could you please prepare the blue guest room? And perhaps find some more clothing that will fit our visitor?" Mrs. Winters blinked, surprised. "Of course, Mr. Musk." As she left the kitchen, she overheard Elon asking Finn about the books he had been reading at the library. The tension in her shoulders relaxed slightly. Whatever was going on, Mr. Musk wasn't upset by the unexpected visitor. Mrs. Winters turned down the bed in the blue guest room and replenished the bathroom with fresh towels. She could hear the conversation in the kitchen over the security system of the mansion. Mr. Musk had moved on from books to inquire about Finn's favorite subjects in school. Finn admitted, "I haven't been to school in a while." His voice was so quiet that Mrs. Winters had to strain to hear it over the monitor. "Since when?" Mr. Musk asked. "Since my grandmother died. Approximately 3 months ago." There was a pause. "And where have you stayed since then?" Mr. Musk's voice remained even and emotionless. Finn spoke vaguely about different places. "I discovered a good spot in Oakwood Park where the security guards don't bother much. There's a hollow behind some bushes where I can place my sleeping bag." Mrs. Winters paused her pillow arrangement and listened intently. "What about other family members?" Mr. Musk asked. "Parents? My mother died when I was 6. I never knew my father." "Was it Grandma? And no one from social services came to help when your grandmother died?" Finn's voice hardened slightly. "They wanted to place me in a group home. I heard stories about those places from kids at school, so I didn't join them. I took what I could carry and left before they returned." "That must have been terrifying," Xavier said, his voice filled with awe. Finn replied that it wasn't as scary as going somewhere where I didn't know anyone. "Besides, I'm doing fine. The library opens at 9 o'clock, so I can spend the entire day there. They have bathrooms where I can wash up and a water fountain. Sometimes Ms. Peterson, the tea librarian, brings extra food and leaves it at my table." "How did you meet Xavier?" Mr. Musk asked. Mrs. Winters could hear the smile in Xavier's voice as he responded. "Sometimes after school, I go to the library before being picked up by the driver." Finn was reading an old book about spacecraft design, so I asked him about it. "He knows far more than the students at my school, including my science teacher." "It's just that I have a lot of time to read," Finn explained quickly. "The library has books about everything." Mrs. Winters finished preparing the room and returned downstairs. As she approached the kitchen, she overheard Mr. Musk asking additional questions. "So, have you been eating?" "I still had some money from selling my grandmother's television," Finn explained. "I buy things that don't require cooking," and he hesitated. "Xavier has been bringing me food." "How long?" Mr. Musk inquired, turning to his son. Xavier looked down at his feet. "For about 2 weeks, I only ate sandwiches and other lunch staples. I always see him tell Chef Marco that I'm very hungry, so he packs extra." Chef Marco, who was quietly cleaning up nearby, raised an eyebrow but said nothing. "Today it was pouring," Xavier continued, "and the library was closed. I discovered Finn sitting beneath the bus shelter. He was soaked through and shivering. I couldn't simply leave him there." Mrs. Winters walked into the kitchen in time to see Mr. Musk nod thoughtfully. He didn't seem upset about his son's secret food deliveries. If anything, he seemed proud. "The blue room is ready, Mr. Musk," she announced. "Thanks, Mrs. Winters." He turned to Finn. "We have plenty of space here. You're welcome to spend the night." Finn's eyes widened. "That's very nice, but I don't need charity." "It's not charity," Mr. Musk stated plainly. "It is a safe place to sleep. You can leave tomorrow if you want, but it is still raining, and Xavier says you're good company." Finn appeared to be about to argue, but then he let out a big yawn. "When was the last time you slept in a real bed, Finn?" Mrs. Winters asked gently. Finn shrugged. "I suppose I'm at my grandmother's. Before they arrived to take everything away after her death." "Then it's settled," Mr. Musk stated. "One night with no strings attached." He got up from the kitchen stool. "I need to make a couple of calls. Xavier, why don't you show Finn around and maybe find him some books from your collection that he hasn't yet read?" Xavier jumped up, excitedly. "Come on, Finn. Wait until you see my room. I have all of the Mars colony design books, and Dad even gave me some of the actual SpaceX plans. The boys exited the kitchen. Mrs. Winters noticed Finn still holding his backpack. She wondered how few treasures it held. Everything he had left in the world. Mr. Musk stayed in the kitchen and watched the boys leave. When they were out of earshot, he addressed Mrs. Winters. "Has he ate enough? He appears undernourished." Chef Marco had prepared plenty, she assured him. But he didn't want to appear greedy, I believe. He only took a small amount until we insisted. Mr. Musk nodded. "Have dinner ready by 7 p.m. And thank you, Mrs. Winters, for not turning him away." Mrs. Winters was taken aback by the comment and responded, "Of course not, sir. He's only a child." "Yes," Mr. Musk replied, a strange expression on his face. "Just a child who has been fending for himself on the streets and sleeping in bushes." He took out his phone and walked to his office, already dialing. Mrs. Winters overheard him tell someone on the phone, "I need a full background check. The name is Finn. No last name yet. Around 13 years old. The grandmother died 3 months ago. His mother died when he was 6. Father is unknown." Mrs. Winters turned to Chef Marco, who had also heard everything. "Cook his favorite foods," she said quietly. "Finn likes whatever Xavier tells him." Chef Marco nodded. "I am already planning on it. That boy is too thin." They could hear Xavier's excited voice as he showed Finn around. Finn was going to sleep in a proper bed tonight for the first time in 3 months. What might tomorrow bring? Mrs. Winters wondered. It's impossible to predict what Elon Musk will do. Mrs. Winters rang the small silver bell at precisely 7 o'clock, summoning the family to dinner. Typically, Mr. Musk ate in his office or lab, too preoccupied with work to join his children. But tonight was different. He was already seated at the head of the long dining table when Xavier and Finn arrived downstairs. The other Musk children, 2 older and 1 younger than Xavier, looked at Finn with interest as they took their seats. They had overheard whispers among the staff about the strange boy their brother had brought home. "Everyone, this is my friend Finn," Xavier announced proudly. "Finn, these are my brother and sister." Finn nodded shyly, obviously uncomfortable with the attention. Mrs. Winters noticed his hair was neatly combed, and Xavier had lent him a clean t-shirt with a rocket on it. Elon said, "Sit here, Finn," pointing to the empty chair beside him, which is usually reserved for important guests. Finn sat down carefully, puzzled by the array of silverware. There were 3 forks, 2 spoons, and 2 knives at each table setting. Elon told him quietly, "Just work from the outside in. Tortuade or do whatever makes you feel comfortable. Nobody here cares about fancy table manners." Elon's phone rang while Chef Marco was serving the first course, tomato soup with tiny grilled cheese sandwiches on the side. He looked at it and then did something Mrs. Winters had never seen before. He turned it completely off and stored it away. "So, Finn," Elon said as they started eating, "Xavier informed me that you're interested in aerospace engineering." Finn almost choked on his soup. "Sir, I just read about it. I am not an engineer or anything." "What aspects of it specifically pique your interest?" Finn paused, looking down at his bowl. "Probably how rockets must be perfectly balanced. When one side is too heavy, the entire structure fails. Everything must work perfectly together." Elon nodded thoughtfully. "Balance is essential in both engineering and life." The older children exchanged confused looks. Their father rarely spoke in this manner, especially to someone he had recently met. "What else do you enjoy studying?" Elon asked. Finn became more animated as he discussed the books he had read, which ranged from astronomy to physics to science fiction. His shoulders relaxed, and his voice became stronger. By the time Chef Marco served the main course, fried chicken with mashed potatoes and green beans, Finn had developed a theory about efficient fuel consumption based on his reading. "That's very similar to what we're working on at SpaceX," Elon said, clearly impressed. "Really?" Finn's eyes widened. "I mean, it seemed logical." If you could recover even a small portion of the energy lost during combustion. Exactly. Elon interrupted by reaching for a napkin. He took a pen from his pocket and started drawing a diagram. What we're attempting to do is this. Soon, the dinner plates were pushed aside, and the entire table was covered in napkins with drawings and equations. Elon and Finn were deep in conversation about rocket propulsion systems, and Xavier was trying to keep up. The other children had long lost interest and requested to be excused. Mrs. Winters watched in awe. In all of her years working for the Musks, she had never seen Elon so engaged with someone so young, not even his own children. He seemed to have forgotten about everyone else in the room. But won't that generate too much heat? Finn asked, pointing to a section of a drawing. That is the challenge, Elon admitted. We're working on a new cooling system, but it's not ready yet. Finn chewed his lip thoughtfully and grabbed another napkin. What if you did something like this instead? He sketched quickly, his thin hand moving with unexpected confidence. Elon looked at the drawing and then at Finn. A strange expression appeared on his face. Somewhere between shock and recognition. He eventually said, "That's innovative. Very innovative. Where did you learn to think this way?" Finn shrugged. Nothing special here. I simply read a lot and think about things. Elon observed him silently for a moment. Dad, Xavier interrupted, stifling a yawn. Can Finn view your personal workshop? Which one has the cool prototypes? Mrs. Winters tensed. No one was permitted to enter Mr. Musk's private workshop, including the majority of his engineers. To her surprise, Elon nodded. Tomorrow, perhaps. It is getting late now. He turned to Finn. Would you want to see it? Finn's eyes lit up. Yes, sir. Very much. Then it settled. Elon gathered the napkins containing their drawings. I will keep these. Some of your suggestions are worth considering further. Finn blushed, clearly not used to receiving praise from adults. Especially not from someone as famous as Elon Musk. Mrs. Winters, Elon said, standing. Could you show Finn to the blue room and ensure he has everything he needs for the night? Of course, Mr. Musk. She stepped forward. This way, Finn. Can I come too? Xavier inquired eagerly. No, it's time for your homework, Elon stated firmly. You can see Finn in the morning. Xavier groaned, but knew not to argue. Good night, Finn. Sleep well. Tomorrow, I will show you the rest of the house. Finn followed Mrs. Winters upstairs, clutching his backpack as usual. When they arrived in the blue guest room, his eyes widened at the king-sized bed, the large TV on the wall, and the view of the garden through the window. Mrs. Winters pointed to a door and explained that the bathroom is behind it. You'll find new toothbrushes, toothpaste, and anything else you may require. There are clean pajamas in the drawer. If you need anything during the night, simply press this button. She showed him a small intercom panel beside the bed. Thank you, Finn said quietly. Everyone is being very nice. I am not used to it. Mrs. Winters felt her heart twist. Finn, you deserve kindness. Everybody does. He shrugged, visibly uncomfortable with the sentiment. Good night, she said, moving toward the door. Sleep well. As she closed the door behind her, she almost ran into Elon, who was standing in the hallway. Is he settled? He asked. Yes, Mr. Musk. Everything is taken care of. Elon nodded and stared at the closed door. Good. That is good. He appeared lost in thought. Mrs. Winters spoke hesitantly. May I ask what your plans are for him? Elon turned to her with an expression she couldn't decipher. Plans? Will he stay longer than tonight? For a moment, Elon did not respond. Then he said quietly, I think he might be, Mrs. Winters. I think he'll be staying for a while. Without saying anything else, he turned and walked back to his office, leaving Mrs. Winters standing in the hallway, wondering what tomorrow would bring for the strange boy who had so quickly captured the attention of one of the world's most powerful men. Finn could not sleep. The bed was too soft and comfortable. After months of sleeping on the hard ground with only a thin sleeping bag, the plush mattress felt like it was swallowing him. The silence was strange, too. There are no rustling leaves, no distant traffic, and no night animals scurrying nearby. He stood up and walked towards the window. The Musk estate stretched out ahead of him, illuminated by small pathway lights. In the distance, he noticed a tall security fence. Beyond that was his real world, to which he would have to return tomorrow. Finn sighed. As nice as everyone had been, especially Xavier and his famous father, he didn't fit in. Places like this were not for children, who slept in parks and used public restrooms. His stomach growled. Even though Finn had eaten more at dinner than he had in weeks, Chef Marco kept offering seconds and thirds until he couldn't take another bite. But now, his body craved more, as if trying to compensate for all the meals he'd missed. Finn quietly opened his bedroom door and looked into the hallway. It was empty and dimly lit. He remembered seeing a kitchen on this floor when Xavier gave him a tour. Perhaps he could get a snack without waking anyone. He crept down the hallway, his bare feet silent against the thick carpet. As he approached the kitchen, he noticed light spilling from a partially open door across the hallway. Elon Musk's voice was among those that drifted out. Finn froze. He should have returned to his room, but he heard his own name. Elon mentioned doing a background check on Finn. I need to know everything. School records, medical history, and family relationships. Finn's heart sank. He realized it was too good to be true. They planned to find out about his escape from social services and place him in a group home. He was about to turn back when the door swung fully open, revealing Elon Musk standing there with his phone. Hand. Elon greeted Finn, not surprised to see him. Can't sleep? Finn shook his head, embarrassed to be caught eavesdropping. The bed is too soft, he admitted. To his surprise, Elon laughed. I understand. When I first moved to America from South Africa, I couldn't sleep on the mattresses here. Too much comfort can be uncomfortable if you're not used to it. He moved back from the doorway. I was just about to prepare some hot chocolate. Do you want some? Finn nodded, relieved that Elon did not appear angry. He followed him into what appeared to be a small office complete with a kitchenette in the corner. Books and papers were scattered everywhere. Complex-looking rocket and car models sat on shelves. This is my thinking room, Elon explained, placing 2 mugs of milk in a microwave. Sometimes I need to get away from all of the technology and work with pen and paper. Finn glanced at the desk, which was covered in handwritten equations and diagrams. Is this for the cooling system we discussed at dinner? He asked. Elon seemed surprised. Yes, you do have a good eye. The microwave beeped, and Elon removed the mugs, stirring chocolate powder into each. He handed Finn one and pointed to a comfortable chair. So, Finn, he said while sitting across from him. I could not help but overhear. Are you trying to avoid social services? Finn almost choked on his hot chocolate. You're not going to call them, right? Elon studied him for a long time. Not tonight, at least, but we should talk about it. Running away is not a sustainable solution. Finn raised his voice, saying that group homes are terrible. Tyler, my friend, was sent there after his mother went to jail. He claimed that the older children stole everything and that the staff did nothing to stop it. He had run away 3 times before, but before what? Before, he simply vanished. Finn stared at his mug. Nobody even looked for him. This is what happens to children like us. We just vanished. Elon was silent for a moment. He finally said, that will not happen to you. How do you know? Finn challenged, briefly forgetting who he was speaking to. Because I will not allow it. Elon's voice was firm. There are better alternatives to living in the park, Finn. Like, what? Foster care? These can be far worse than group homes. Not all of them, Elon explained. Some are good, but there are other options. Finn wanted to argue more, but he restrained himself. There was no point. Adults always assumed they knew best, even when they had no idea what it was truly like. Elon appeared to sense his thoughts. I grew up in Pretoria, South Africa, he revealed abruptly. My parents divorced when I was younger. I lived with my father. For a while? He paused. It was not always easy. Finn looked up, surprised by the personal nature of the conversation. I was not homeless, Elon continued. But I understand what it's like to feel alone. To feel as if no one understands you. Have things gotten better? Finn asked quietly. Yes and no. I left South Africa when I was 17. I went to Canada first, then the United States. Elon smiled slightly. I've built rockets, electric cars, tunnels, and brain interfaces, but I think the most difficult thing I've ever done was to survive as a kid who didn't quite fit in. Finn wasn't sure what to say. It was strange to think of Elon Musk, the world's richest man who was planning to colonize Mars, as a vulnerable child. Why are you so nice to me? Finn finally asked. You don't even know me. Elon looked at him for a long time before responding. Sometimes we are given second chances in life that we do not deserve. His voice was soft, almost like he was speaking to himself. When opportunities arise, we must seize them. Finn had no idea what that meant, but before he could ask, Elon stood up. It is late. Try to sleep. Tomorrow is going to be an interesting day. Finn walked back to his room, warmed by the hot chocolate in the conversation, wondering what Elon meant by a second chance and who would be receiving it. Finn, or Elon himself? Finn awoke to sunlight streaming through windows that were much larger than any he had seen before. He briefly lost track of his location. Then yesterday's events came flooding back. Xavier is bringing him home. Dinner with Elon Musk. Late-night hot chocolate. A soft knock came at the door. Finn, are you awake? It was Xavier, and his voice was full of excitement. Dad invites you to come down for breakfast. When you are ready, I will be right there. Finn called back. He got out of bed and noticed clean clothes laid out on a chair, including new jeans, a t-shirt, socks, and even new sneakers that appeared to fit perfectly. Mrs. Winters must have planned this, he reasoned. He dressed quickly, feeling strange, in clothes that were neither thin nor too large. Before leaving the room, he carefully packed his backpack. Whatever happened today, he needed to be prepared to leave at a moment's notice. The kitchen downstairs was busy. Chef Marco was preparing pancakes while Mrs. Winters arranged fruit on a platter. Xavier was already seated at the counter, swinging his legs and playing a game on his tablet. Morning, Finn. Xavier grinned. Dad is actually eating breakfast with us. Today. He never does that. As if on cue, Elon walked in, phone in hand. He was dressed casually, with jeans and a dark t-shirt. Good morning, he said to Finn. Sleep well? Yes, sir. Thank you. Finn climbed onto a stool, trying not to look at the massive pile of food being prepared. Just Elon is fine, he said, putting his phone down. We don't believe in ceremony around here. Chef Marco put a stack of pancakes in front of Finn. Eat up, he said with a wink. Growing boys require fuel. Finn did not need to be told twice. He poured syrup on the pancakes and dug in while Xavier talked about everything he wanted to show Finn today. And then we can go to the garage and look at the prototypes, maybe even. Actually, Elon interrupted. I thought I'd show Finn around myself today. Xavier's fork froze halfway into his mouth. But you are constantly working. Not today, Elon replied. I have cleared my schedule. Mrs. Winters was the one who looked shocked now. She exchanged glances with Chef Marco, who raised an eyebrow. "You never take days off," Xavier explained, sounding perplexed and a little jealous. Elon replied, "Occasionally, I do." Then he turned to Finn. "Unless you'd rather hang out with Xavier?" "No, I meant," Finn stumbled over his words. "That would be great if you were certain you had time." Elon's phone rang, and everyone tensed. But instead of responding, he silenced it and placed it in his pocket. "I have time," he explained simply. As if to contradict him, a woman in a sharp suit appeared in the doorway, appearing stressed. "Mr. Musk, you have a Mars project meeting in 15 minutes. The team is waiting for your video call." "Lisa," Elon explained calmly to his assistant. "Please inform them that I will not be attending. In fact, cancel all of my meetings for today." Lisa's mouth dropped open. "But, sir, the NASA representatives." "Rescheduled." Elon ate a bite of his pancake. "Family matters." Lisa looked at Finn, clearly perplexed as to how this unknown boy qualified as a family matter. She knew better than to argue. "Yes, sir, I will take care of it." She turned to leave, already tapping on her tablet. "Are you sick, Dad?" Xavier inquired, only half joking. Elon replied, "I feel fine. I just thought I'd take the day to show Finn around. He is interested in engineering, and we are working on some interesting projects." Finn couldn't believe what he heard. Elon Musk was taking the entire day off work. For him? It did not make sense. After breakfast, Elon led Finn and Xavier, who insisted on accompanying him, to a building behind the main house. He pressed his thumb against a scanner, and a heavy door unlocked. "This is my personal workshop," he explained as they entered. "Only a few individuals have access." Finn's eyes widened as they walked inside. The space was massive, filled with machinery, computers, and half-finished prototypes. One wall was covered with touchscreens that displayed data and designs. Another contained tools of various sizes and types. Finn exclaimed, "Wow!" Elon said, "This is where I come to work on ideas that aren't ready for the companies yet. Sometimes the best innovation occurs in private, away from committees and investors." He walked Finn through the workshop, explaining the various projects. There was a new type of solar panel that was thinner and more efficient than anything currently on the market. A strange helmet that Elon claimed could read brain signals. In the center of the room, there was a large model of what appeared to be a city under a dome. "Is it Mars?" Finn inquired, leaning closer. Elon nodded. "A proposed design for the first permanent Mars colony. What are your thoughts?" Finn examined it carefully. "Where is the water being processed?" he asked. For such a large colony, massive filtration and recycling would be required. Elon's eyebrows rose. "It's located underneath this section." He pointed to the model's base. "Most people don't immediately consider the water systems. It's the most important part," Finn explained. "You can go weeks without eating, but only days without drinking." He paused and added quietly, "I quickly learned this on my own." A shadow passed over Elon's face. For a moment, he appeared to want to say something serious. But then Xavier jumped in. "Dad, may we show him the miniature rockets?" "Of course." Elon led them to a different section of the workshop, where small rocket models were displayed. "These are scale replicas of every rocket I've ever built, from the beginning. Designs for what we are currently working on." They spent the next several hours exploring the workshop. Elon described complex engineering concepts in simple terms. Finn also asked questions that even Xavier didn't understand. Elon waved Lisa away when she reappeared at lunchtime, looking harried. "Not now," he replied. "We are in the midst of something important." Finn couldn't recall the last time he had as much fun. For once, he wasn't concerned with where he would sleep that night or when he would eat next. He was only a child, learning about rockets, solar panels, and brain interfaces from one of the world's smartest people. As they returned to the house for lunch, Xavier dashed ahead, leaving Finn and Elon walking side by side. "You have a good mind, Finn," Elon said suddenly. "You think differently. That's unusual." "Thanks," Finn mumbled, unaccustomed to compliments. Elon said, "I would like you to stay for a while longer." "If you want, Finn will stop walking." "Why?" he asked bluntly. Elon considered the question. "Let's just say that I see potential in you." "Great potential." Finn wanted to ask more, but they had arrived at the house and Xavier was asking them to hurry up. As they went inside, Finn couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was going on. Something he didn't quite understand. Days passed, and Finn stayed at the Musk mansion. No one mentioned his departure anymore. Every morning, he awoke expecting to be told it was time to leave. Instead, he discovered fresh clothes, hot meals, and, gradually, a place where he felt almost at home. Almost through the first week. Finn noticed the whispers. They began with the staff, having brief, hushed conversations that ended when he entered a room. Then Xavier's siblings started giving him strange looks at breakfast. Why is he still around? He overheard Xavier's older brother question Mrs. Winters one afternoon. Dad had never brought someone home like this before. "It is not our place to question Mr. Musk's decisions," Mrs. Winters responded. But even she appeared uncertain. Only Xavier seemed completely satisfied with the arrangement. He had a live-in friend who shared his interests but knew more than he did. A perfect combination for a 12-year-old. The strangest thing was Elon himself. He spent more time at home than anyone could recall. Every evening, he invited Finn into his workshop or office to discuss ideas and plans. Xavier occasionally joined them, but it was mostly just the two of them discussing space colonies, sustainable energy, and tunneling machines. On the seventh day, while helping Mrs. Winters fold laundry, Finn insisted on doing something to earn his keep. He overheard two security guards speaking just outside the laundry room door. "It's for publicity," one of them confidently stated. "Sir, think about it. Billionaire takes in a homeless child. When the news gets out, the press will go crazy." The other guard replied, "I don't know. Mr. Musk has never been particularly interested in that type of publicity. And why keep it a secret? There have been no reporters here. Perhaps he is waiting for the right time to announce it. His company's stock hasn't been performing well lately. This might be a distraction." Finn's hands trembled while folding a towel. Was that all it was? A publicity stunt? The thought upset his stomach. He had begun to believe that Elon might enjoy having him around. Later that day, he overheard various whispers from the kitchen staff. Chef Marco stated that the boy does not resemble Mr. Musk and thus cannot be his son. The sous chef suggested that this could be from a previous relationship. A child he was unaware of until recently. Then why not just say it? Chef Marco shakes his head. It does not make sense. Finn was unable to eat his dinner that evening. The conversations he'd overheard kept playing back in his mind. Was he a charitable case? A publicity stunt? Some sort of secret relative? He wasn't sure which would be worse. "Are you feeling okay?" Elon inquired, noticing Finn push food around his plate. "You have barely touched your steak." "I'm fine," Finn mumbled. "Simply not hungry." Xavier kicked him beneath the table. "Dad is taking us to see the rocket factory tomorrow," he whispered. "Do not ruin it by getting sick." After dinner, Finn retreated to the garden. It was a warm evening, and the setting sun cast long shadows across the immaculately kept lawn. He sat on a stone bench, knees drawn up to his chest, and tried to think. For 3 months, he had been on his own. He'd been cold, hungry, and scared, but at least he knew where he fit in the world. Everything was confusing here. Why would one of the world's richest men spend so much time with him? What did he actually want? "Mind if I join you?" Finn looked up and saw Xavier's sister, Maya, standing nearby. She was 16 and usually ignored both Xavier and Finn because she was too preoccupied with her own friends and activities. Finn shrugged. "This is your garden." Maya sat down beside him. So, after a moment, she asked, "What is your deal? What do you mean? Why is my father so interested in you? He's never been like this. Even with his actual children, he is constantly busy and working, but with you, he cancels meetings and spends hours in his workshop." She sounded confused, not angry. "So, what makes you special?" Finn admitted, "I don't know. I keep wondering the same thing." Maya observed him. "You don't resemble us, so you're not a secret half-brother or anything. Is this what they're saying?" Among other things, Maya took a leaf from a nearby bush. "Some of the staff believe you are a charity project. Others believe Dad is using you for good publicity." Finn grimaced. Hearing it from her made it even more painful. "What are your thoughts?" he asked quietly. Maya was silent for a moment. "I believe my father does not do anything without a reason. He is not cruel, but he is always calculating and thinking 10 steps ahead." She cast a glance at Finn. "So, whatever happens, he's got a plan. The question is, what is the plan, and will you be okay with it once you find out?" Before Finn could respond, they heard footsteps along the path. Xavier appeared, visibly annoyed. "What are you doing, Maya? Are you mean to Finn?" "We're just talking," Maya explained, standing up. "Relax." She looked back at Finn. "Just take care, okay? Whatever is going on, remember that my father always has a reason." She walked away, leaving Finn even more confused and concerned. "Don't listen to her," Xavier said, settling down on the bench. "She is always dramatic." Finn, however, could not shake her words. That night, as he lay in bed staring at the ceiling, he came to a decision. Tomorrow, after the rocket factory tour, he would ask Elon why he was keeping him around. If he didn't like the response, he'd leave. His backpack was still packed and ready to go. He had even begun saving food from meals, putting it in Ziploc bags he found in the kitchen. Just as he was falling asleep, his door creaked open. Finn sat up suddenly, his heart pounding. Elon stood in the doorway, his face cast in shadow. "Finn, are you awake?" Finn responded, curious as to what was going on. "Good." Elon walked into the room. "I have something important to discuss with you. I was planning to wait, but..." He paused. "I've made some calls and pulled some strings." Finn asked, a knot forming in his stomach. "About?" "You," Elon said. "About your future." He sat at the edge of Finn's bed. "How would you feel about staying here? Not for a few days or weeks, but indefinitely." Finn stared at him. "What do you mean? Live here? Are you with your family?" "Yes," Elon said. "I've been speaking with some people I know in family services. Given your circumstances, there may be a way for you to remain legally if that is what you desire." Finn wasn't sure what to say. Part of him wanted to say yes right away, vowing to never sleep in parks or wash in public restrooms again. But Maya's warning echoed in his mind. "Why?" he finally asked. "Why do you want me to stay?" Elon was silent for a long time. "Because I believe we were meant to meet, Finn. And I do not believe in coincidences." Finn stared at Elon, trying to figure out what he meant by, "to find each other." Before he could ask, Elon stood up. "Think about it," he advised. "We'll talk more tomorrow after our rocket factory tour. Try to sleep." Finn lay awake for several hours after Elon had left. The prospect of having a real home again was appealing, but something about the situation still felt strange, like a puzzle with missing pieces. The following morning, Xavier jumped on Finn's bed to wake him up. "Come on, Dad is waiting. We'll see real rockets being built." The tour of SpaceX was incredible. Finn hadn't seen anything like it. Huge rocket parts are being assembled, engineers are testing equipment, and mission control rooms are full with screens. Everyone was surprised to see Elon there with two boys, but nobody questioned it. On the way home, Elon made an announcement that took both boys by surprise. "Finn, I have enrolled you in school. You and Xavier will begin classes at Oak Ridge Academy on Monday." Finn's mouth fell open at school, "But I don't have any records or supplies, so it's all taken care of," Elon explained. "The school understands your situation. They will assess your knowledge level and place you accordingly." Xavier whooped with delight. "This is awesome. We could be in the same classes." "Actually," Elon stated, "Finn will most likely be placed a grade above you based on what I've seen of his abilities." Finn couldn't decide whether to be happy or terrified. School represented permanence. It meant Elon was serious about staying, but it also meant meeting new people who would be curious about who he was and why he was living with the Musks. Monday arrived too quickly. Mrs. Winters assisted Finn in getting ready, ensuring that his new uniform fit perfectly and that his backpack contained all of the necessary supplies. For the first time, Finn left his old backpack in his room. The one that held everything he had acquired during his months on the streets. Mrs. Winters straightened his collar and wished him good luck today. "Simply be yourself. Children can be cruel at times, but they are also surprisingly accepting." Finn had attended a public school before his grandmother died, but this was nothing like it. Oak Ridge Academy had beautiful buildings, small classes, and technology throughout. As Finn and Xavier walked through the halls, students stared and whispered, "Who is the new kid with Xavier Musk? I heard he is living with them. Is he related to them? No way. Look at him. He looks nothing like them." Xavier ignored the whispers and talked excitedly about teachers and classes. But Finn felt each stare as if it were a physical touch. When they arrived at the office, Principal Chen was waiting for them. "Welcome to Oak Ridge, Finn," she said warmly. "Mr. Musk has informed me a little about your situation. We are delighted to have you join us." After some tests, Finn was assigned to 8th grade, 1 year ahead of Xavier. His first class was science, and Mr. Rodriguez asked him to introduce himself. "I'm Finn," he said simply, standing in the front of the room. "I like to read and am interested in engineering." "Finn is staying with the Musk family," Mr. Rodriguez explained. "I am confident you will all make him feel welcome." That is all it took. As soon as class was over, he was surrounded by curious students. "Are you actually living with Elon Musk? What is their house like? How did you meet them? Are you some sort of genius or something?" Finn mumbled short answers, attempting to flee. He discovered Xavier waiting outside his classroom. "How was it?" Xavier inquired as they walked to lunch. Finn admitted that this was strange. "Everyone keeps asking about your father and your home." "Yeah, that happens," Xavier said, shrugging. "You get used to it." In the cafeteria, they sat with some of Xavier's friends. Most of the boys were friendly, but one, Carter, kept giving Finn strange looks. "So, what is the real story?" Carter finally asked. "Why did Elon Musk take in this random kid?" "I'm not random," Finn said defensively. "Xavier and I are friends," Carter snorted. "Yes, right. My father works for Tesla. He says there has to be an angle. Elon Musk does not engage in charitable activities." "Shut up, Carter," Xavier snapped. "My dad isn't like that." "So what's the reason?" Carter pressed. "Is he like your secret cousin, or something?" Before Finn could respond, a food tray clattered down beside him. A tall girl with curly hair sat down. "Leave him alone, Carter. Not everyone has an ulterior motive for being nice." Carter rolled his eyes and backed off. The girl turned to Finn. "I'm Zoe." "Ignore Carter. His father was passed over for a promotion last month, so he's just being bitter." Finn expressed gratitude for the intervention. The rest of the day went well. Finn discovered a talent for math and science, and despite missing months of school, he was able to keep up. In English class, they were reading a book that he had already finished at the library. When the final bell rang, Finn discovered Xavier waiting by the front doors with a big grin. "How was your first day?" Finn thought about it. "Not bad," he said. "Better than I had expected." As they walked to the car where a driver was waiting to take them home, Finn realized something unexpected. For the first time in months, he didn't spend the entire day worrying about survival. Instead, he'd been thinking about normal kid things like classes, teachers, and other students. Maybe this new life will work out after all. But as they drove through the school gates, Finn noticed a woman photographing them from across the street. The driver saw her and frowned. "Mr. Musk will not like that," he muttered. "The paparazzi are becoming curious." The driver was correct. Elon did not appreciate the paparazzi's attention. When Finn mentioned the photographer, Elon's expression darkened. "I was hoping we'd have more time before this happened," he explained. "But I suppose it was inevitable." "What is it time for?" Finn inquired. Elon did not respond directly. "Don't worry, the security team will handle it." However, 3 days later, Finn had a lot to worry about. It began during science class, when he noticed several students looking at their phones before turning to face him. By lunchtime, the whispers had become louder. Finn discovered Xavier in the cafeteria, looking upset. "What's happening?" Finn asked as he sat down. "Everyone is acting weird." Xavier pushed his phone across the table. The screen displayed a photo of Finn and Xavier getting into their car after school, with the headline, "Mystery Boy Living with Elon Musk." "Who is he?" Finn felt his stomach drop. "Where has this come from?" "Some stupid gossip website," Xavier explained. "But now it's everywhere. Look." He scrolled through the article, which featured additional photos. Finn enters the school wearing his new uniform and sits beside Elon at the rocket factory. Even an old photograph of him in the park where he used to sleep. Who is the mysterious boy who now lives with billionaire Elon Musk? The article asked. According to sources, he appeared unexpectedly last week and has enrolled in the exclusive Oak Ridge Academy, which Musk's children attend. The boy, known only as Finn, was reportedly homeless before moving in with the Musk family. Musk representatives declined to comment. Finn pushed away the phone, feeling sick. How did they find out about this? People talk, Xavier observed grimly. Someone at school most likely told their parents, who then informed someone else, and so on. Just then, Zoe slid into the seat across from them. "Are you both okay?" "Everyone is talking about that article." "We're fine," Xavier replied quickly. Finn replied, "No, we're not." He looked at Zoe. "Why does everyone care so much?" "It's not a huge deal." Zoe raised her eyebrows. "A billionaire takes in a homeless child out of nowhere. That is definitely a big deal. People are curious." Xavier complained that they were making up all of these stories. "Carter is telling everyone that Finn is blackmailing my father or something." "That is ridiculous," Zoe remarked, rolling her eyes. "Ignore him. But you should probably expect more attention. This is not going away." She was correct. By the end of the school day, the story had spread to major news outlets. The driver had to get past a small crowd of reporters at the school gates. Finn hunched down in his seat, attempting to make himself invisible. When they arrived home, Mrs. Winters ushered them inside. "Mr. Musk is in his office," she informed Finn. "He wants to see you right away." Finn discovered Elon sitting at his desk, surrounded by screens displaying different news websites, all with variations on the same story. Lisa, his assistant, was arguing with someone on the phone. She stated that there would be no comment at this time. "No, Mr. Musk is unavailable for an interview." Elon looked up as Finn entered. "Oh, there you are. Sit down, he said to Lisa, who nodded and exited the room, still on her phone. I apologize for this, Elon said once they were alone. I should have anticipated media interest sooner. It's fine, Finn said automatically, even though it wasn't. If this is causing problems, I can leave. Go someplace else. Elon frowned. Is this what you want? To leave? Finn hesitated. After 2 weeks in the Musk home, the prospect of returning to the streets made his chest tighten. But he also despised being the focus of all this attention. I don't know, he admitted. I'm just not sure why everyone cares so much. Why? It's a really big story. People are fascinated by wealth and power, Elon explained, and they are wary of kindness without obvious motivation. They want to know why I'd take in a homeless boy. What is my angle? What will I get out of it? His mouth twisted. They cannot imagine doing something just because it is the right thing to do. Is that really why you're assisting me? Finn inquired. Because it is the right thing? Elon's eyes met his. It's part of the reason, he explained cautiously. However, as I previously stated, I believe our meeting was not by chance. I believe there is a purpose to it. Before Finn could ask what he meant again, the door flew open and Xavier rushed inside. Dad, have you seen what people are saying online? It's becoming crazy. Xavier's tablet displayed social media posts speculating wildly about Finn. Some speculated that he was a relative, while others believed he was part of an elaborate publicity stunt. The harsher comments implied that Elon was using Finn to distract from business problems or to improve his public image. I should leave, Finn said quietly. This is too much trouble for your family. No, Xavier cried. You cannot leave. Tell him, Dad, that he cannot leave. Elon looked at Finn for a moment. Why don't you take a walk? Think about it. This will all subside eventually. The media is constantly moving on to new stories. But it did not die down. Over the next few days, the story expanded. Someone revealed that Finn was living in Oakwood Park before Xavier brought him home. Reporters began interviewing individuals who recognized Finn from the library and park. Ms. Peterson, the librarian, told the news site that the boy was always reading. Very bright and polite, but clearly struggling. I tried to help with food whenever I could, but I had no idea he was sleeping in the park. I wished I had known. Finn was seen with the Musk family at the rocket factory, eating ice cream, and leaving school in photos posted online. Each new image sparked further speculation. Why had Elon Musk become so interested in this particular homeless boy? Finn tried to ignore everything, but it was impossible. At school, some students treated him like a celebrity, while others speculated that he must have done something special to earn his place among the Musks. The worst moment occurred and a reporter approached him directly. Finn was waiting outside the school for Xavier when a woman approached him with a friendly smile. Hello, Finn. I'm Kate from Channel 4 News. I was wondering if I could ask you some questions about how you came to live with Elon Musk? Before Finn could respond, a security guard appeared next to him. No comment, the guard said firmly, positioning himself between Finn and the reporter. The boy is a minor, please move away. That night, Finn packed his old backpack. The media. There was an excessive amount of attention. He was causing problems for the Musks, and he still had no idea why Elon had taken him in. Maya's warning rang through his mind. Her father always had a reason. Xavier knocked on his door just as he was deciding whether to leave immediately or wait until the morning. What are you doing now? Xavier inquired, noting the packed backpack. Finn said, I can't stay. All the attention. It's too crazy. But it's not all bad, Xavier contended. He took out his tablet. Look at the comments. Many people think it's great that Dad is assisting you. Finn read through the comments that Xavier had highlighted. This gives me hope. Even the richest man in the world can be compassionate. My family was homeless when I was younger. I wish someone had intervened like this. Whatever his reasons, Musk is making a positive difference in this child's life. How can this be bad? Xavier pointed out that not everyone believes your father is motivated by selfishness. Some argue that this makes him look more human, rather than a robot billionaire. Finn sat on his bed, conflicted. The positive comments made him feel better. The thought of returning to his lonely life in the park became increasingly painful. Here he had food, shelter, school, and, most importantly, people who appeared to care about him, particularly Xavier. Strangely enough, Elon himself. Xavier pleaded for a few more days. The reporters will soon find another topic to discuss. Finn agreed reluctantly. A couple more days. But the next morning, as they ate breakfast, Lisa rushed into the kitchen, looking concerned. Mr. Musk, Child Protective Services has just called. They're sending someone to look into Finn's situation. They will be here this afternoon. Elon's spoon clashed against his cereal bowl. Today? Are they coming today? Lisa nodded, clearly stressed. They became involved as a result of media coverage. They stated that they need to ensure that proper procedures are followed for a minor under your care. Finn felt a familiar knot of fear tighten in his stomach. Child Protective Services. The very people he'd been avoiding since his grandmother died. Cannot you stop them? Xavier questioned his father. You are Elon Musk. That's exactly why they're coming, Elon said, his voice unusually calm. Nobody is above the law, especially children. He turned to Finn. Do not worry. This is routine. They just need to make sure you're safe and well cared for. But Finn could see tension in Elon's face, which contradicted his reassuring words. Something about this visit made him concerned. I should leave, Finn said, pushing away from the table. Before they arrive, they'll put me in a group home. No, Elon replied firmly. Running will only make matters worse. Finn, trust me on this. I need you to stay and answer their questions truthfully. He hesitated before adding. I have lawyers working on a more permanent solution for your situation, but we must follow the proper procedures. A permanent solution? The words echoed in Finn's mind as he walked upstairs to change into more formal attire for the meeting. What exactly did that mean? Was Elon really going to let him stay long-term? At precisely 2 o'clock, a woman in a sensible navy suit entered the mansion. Mrs. Winters led her into the formal living room, where Elon and Finn waited. Xavier had been assigned homework, despite his protests. The woman introduced herself as Ms. Daniels from Child Protective Services and shook Elon Musk's hand. Her gaze shifted to Finn. And you must be Finn. It is nice to meet you. Finn nodded, not trusting his ability to speak. His heart was racing. This woman had the authority to remove him from the first place he'd felt safe in months. Ms. Daniels told Elon, I need to speak with Finn alone first. Standard procedure. Elon appeared to want to object, but instead nodded. I will be in my office when you are ready to speak with me. Before leaving, he briefly touched Finn's shoulder. Remember to be honest. When they were alone, Ms. Daniels sat across from Finn, holding a tablet in her lap. I am going to record our conversation, if that is okay with you? Finn shrugged, attempting to be casual despite his anxiety. Let's start with the basics, she suggested. Is your full name Finn? Reeves and Finn supplied. Finn Alexander Reeves. What is your date of birth? March 17, 2011. That makes you 13, she noted. Could you tell me how you came to live with the Musk family? Finn took a deep breath before telling her everything. His grandmother's death, his aversion to group homes, living in the park, meeting Xavier at the library, and then on a rainy day, Xavier brought him home. And how are you treated here? Ms. Daniels asked. Finn replied honestly. Better than I deserved. Ms. Daniels frowned slightly at this. Why do you always say you deserve better? Finn gazed down at his hands. I'm just a kid from the park. Mr. Musk is. Well, he is Elon Musk. He doesn't have to help me. But he is assisting you. Why do you believe that is? Finn had been asking himself this question for several weeks. I don't know, he admitted. He claims we were meant to find each other, whatever that means. He mentions second chances from time to time. Ms. Daniels made a note on her tablet. Has Mr. Musk ever made you feel uncomfortable in any way? No, Finn replied quickly. He's been extremely kind. He talks with me about rockets and engineering. He enrolled me in school. Finn hesitated, surprised by the emotion that rose in his throat. He's made me feel important. The interview lasted nearly an hour. Ms. Daniels inquired about Finn's daily routine, schoolwork, interactions with the Musk children, and future plans. When she was finished, she called Elon back in. Mr. Musk, I need to speak with you right now. Finn attempted to leave, but Ms. Daniels stopped him. Actually, Finn, I would like you to stay for this part. Elon sat beside Finn on the sofa, appearing tense but composed. Mr. Musk, while I appreciate your desire to assist Finn, there are procedures that must be followed when bringing a minor into your home. You currently do not have legal standing as his guardian. I'm aware, Elon responded. My legal team is considering options. What kind of options? Ms. Daniels inquired. Elon looked at Finn before responding. This is dependent on a number of factors, including the ability to locate any of Finn's relatives. Finn jerked his head upward. I have relatives, but no other family. It was just me and Grandma. Actually, Elon explained carefully, my team has been looking for any family connections you may have. It is part of the legal process. Ms. Daniels nodded. That is correct. Before making any permanent arrangements, we must ensure that no biological relatives can claim custody. And have you found someone? Finn inquired, his voice small. Elon and Ms. Daniels exchanged a look that Finn couldn't understand. We are still investigating, Elon stated. There might be an uncle on your mother's side. Finn's mouth dropped open. An uncle? I had no idea about any uncles. We don't have confirmation yet, Elon replied quickly. However, if he exists, he will have legal priority over any other arrangements. Finn felt as if the floor was tilting beneath him. An uncle, a legitimate blood relative? The idea was both exciting and terrifying. Will this unknown uncle want him? Or would he simply be another adult who regarded Finn as a burden? What will happen now? Finn questioned Ms. Daniels. You can stay here for the time being as a temporary emergency placement because you have nowhere else to go. However, Mr. Musk will need to file the proper paperwork. And will have to follow up on these potential family connections. After Ms. Daniels left, Finn turned to Elon. Why didn't you let me know you were looking for my relatives? Elon ran his hand through his hair, looking uncharacteristically unsure. I didn't want to raise your hopes if it didn't lead anywhere. Finding family members can be challenging. But did you find someone? An uncle? Possibly, Elon said. I've got people working on it. If he exists, we will locate him. Finn studied Elon's face, trying to figure out what he was thinking. For someone who had offered Finn a permanent place in his home, he appeared strangely interested in finding this unknown uncle. Do you want me to live with him? Finn asked directly. Is this why you are looking so hard? No, Elon said abruptly and firmly, taking Finn by surprise. But, legally, we must consider all options. We need to do this correctly, Finn. No shortcuts. As Finn walked upstairs to find Xavier, he couldn't shake the feeling that Elon was withholding information from him. Something significant about this mysterious uncle, and why finding him was so important. The next few days at the Musk mansion were tense. Elon spent several hours in his office on the phone with lawyers. Finn attempted to concentrate on school, but the thought of an uncle, a blood relative, kept distracting him. Do you think he will be nice? Xavier inquired, as they walked home from school on Thursday. The media frenzy had finally subsided, allowing them to walk the short distance instead of taking the car. Finn replied, I don't even know if he's real. Your father said they're still looking. If he exists, would you want to live with him? Finn kicked a stone along the sidewalk. I do not know. He's a complete stranger. So were we 2 weeks ago, as Xavier pointed out. That was correct, Finn realized. Just a few weeks ago, the Musks were strangers. Now, he couldn't imagine returning to his old life. He had clean clothes, consistent meals, school, and people who appeared to care about him. Could a mysterious uncle provide the same? Mrs. Winters greeted them at the door, looking excited. Finn, Mr. Musk would like to see you in his office right away. Finn's heart jumped. Have they found him? My uncle? Mrs. Winters nodded. I believe so. Go on up. Xavier grabbed Finn's arm. I'll join you. They hurried upstairs to Elon's office. The door was open and Elon was sitting at his desk, speaking with someone via video call. When he saw the boys, he waved them inside. Finn, this is Mr. Harmon, the private investigator I hired. He has information about your uncle. The screen showed a man with gray hair and glasses. Hello, Finn. We have been looking for relatives since Mr. Musk first contacted us. Your mother's birth certificate listed a brother named James Carter. He has been difficult to track down because he changed his name after joining the military. Finn moved closer to the screen. Did you find him? Yes, Mr. Harmon stated. He lives in Oregon and works as a mechanic at a small garage. He is 41 years old, has never been married, and has no children. Does he know about me? Finn inquired. He knew your mother had a child, but he had lost touch with her years before. He had no idea what happened to you following her death. Elon spoke up. We informed him of your situation. He was surprised to say the least. Finn wasn't sure how to feel. For so long, he thought he was completely alone in the world. He had no idea he had an uncle, his mother's brother, until now. Would he like to meet me? Finn finally asked. Elon and Mr. Harmon exchanged looks. Actually, Elon stated, he is already on his way here. He should arrive tomorrow. Finn's legs felt suddenly weak. He sank into a chair. Tomorrow? He was very excited to meet you, Mr. Harmon explained. When he realized you were his sister's son, he immediately asked how he could help. I've arranged for him to stay in a nearby hotel, Elon explained. CPS has been notified, and they will need to assess him as a possible guardian. Guardian. The word remained in the air. This uncle, this stranger, may become his guardian. The person legally responsible for him. What's he like? Finn inquired. Mr. Harmon stated that based on our background check, he appears to be a decent man. There is no criminal record. Honorable discharge from the military. Consistent employment history. His co-workers speak highly of him. After the call, Finn sat quietly, trying to process everything. Are you okay? Xavier inquired, unusually serious. Finn admitted, I don't know. I've always wanted a family, but I know nothing about this guy. Elon leaned forwards. You do not need to make any decisions right away, Finn. This is just the first meeting. But Finn saw something in Elon's eyes. Attention. A worry that had not previously existed. Do you want me to go with him? He asked suddenly. What? No, Elon replied, startled. Why would you think this? Because you worked so hard to find him, and now you're rushing to get him here. That is not. Elon stopped and took a deep breath. It's complicated, Finn. Legally, a blood relative has priority in custody cases. Before we can consider anything else, we must first investigate that option. Finn said, before you can keep me. Elon did not deny it. Yes, before any further permanent arrangements can be made. The next morning, Finn dressed carefully in the nicest clothes Mrs. Winters had bought him. His uncle, James Carter, was supposed to arrive at 10. Finn's stomach was knotted. At 9:58 a.m., the security system announced a visitor at the gate. Finn, Elon, and Xavier waited in the living room. Mrs. Winters went to bring him inside. Footsteps approached, and a man emerged from the doorway. He was tall, with broad shoulders and the same dark hair as Finn, which was beginning to gray at the temples. He wore jeans, work boots, and a new-looking button-up shirt. When he saw Finn, he paused abruptly, his eyes the same deep blue as Finn's. "Holy cow," he said softly. "You look exactly like her." Finn stared at the man, who appeared to be his uncle. "You knew my mother?" James Carter nodded, still visibly stunned. "Sarah was my little sister." He made a hesitant step forward. "I haven't seen her since before your birth. We had a falling out. I've always regretted not making peace before her." His voice trailed off. "Before she died," Finn finished for him. "When I was 6, the room was filled with awkward silence." Elon stepped forward and extended his hand. "Hello, Mr. Carter. My name is Elon Musk. Thank you for coming at such short notice." James shook his hand, clearly intimidated. "Still trying to get my head around this? Has my nephew been living with Elon Musk? It looks like something from a movie." "Perhaps we should allow you two some time to talk," Elon suggested. "Xavier, why don't we?" "Actually," James interrupted, "I'd like to understand the entire situation first. How did Finn end up here?" Everyone moved to the living room, where Finn and Xavier recounted how they met at the library and how Xavier had brought Finn home on a rainy afternoon. James listened intently, occasionally glancing at Elon with an expression Finn couldn't understand. "Why didn't social services contact me after your grandmother's death?" James inquired of Finn. Finn stated that they were most likely unaware of your existence. "Grandma never mentioned having a brother-in-law, and for school and other purposes, I used her last name rather than my mother's." Elon also noted that you had changed your name. "It made you more difficult to find," James agreed. "Is this a military thing?" "Long story." He turned back to Finn. "I can't believe you lived in the park. If I had known." "It wasn't so bad," Finn said, not wanting sympathy. "I succeeded." "You should not have had to manage," James stated firmly. "You are a kid." Mrs. Winters delivered coffee for the adults and hot chocolate for the boys. As they drank, James inquired about Finn's school, interests, and life before his grandmother died. It was strange for Finn to discuss these topics with someone who shared his blood and knew his mother. Finn inquired as to whether his mother shared his interest in science. Like space and engineering and such? A shadow passed over James' face. Sarah was brilliant and could have been whatever she wanted. However, she became involved with the wrong crowd after high school and made some bad decisions. He gave Elon a quick glance before turning away. She was putting her life together. When she became ill, Finn, she would have been so proud of you. Elon had been unusually quiet, observing their interaction intently. Now he spoke up. "Mr. Carter, have the investigators discussed your options for Finn's situation?" James straightened. "They stated that as a blood relative, I could petition for guardianship." "Is this what you're asking? Is that something you're interested in doing?" Elon's tone was carefully neutral. James looked at Finn. "I believe that is up to Finn. We've just met. I will not force him to live with a stranger." Actually, Elon stated that as his closest living relative, you would have priority under the law. Finn felt his chest tightening. Was Elon looking to get rid of him? "Dad," Xavier protested. "You can't make Finn leave." Elon replied, "That is not what I am saying, Xavier. I am simply explaining the legal situation." James gave Elon a long look. "With all due respect, Mr. Musk, you have billions of dollars and a team of expensive lawyers. If you wanted to keep Finn here, I am confident you could do so. So I'm wondering if you want him to stay." The room went silent. Everyone looked at Elon, waiting for his response. "Of course, I want him to stay," Elon replied. "Finally, Finn has become important to me. But I also want the best for him. Family is important. So why work so hard to find me?" James pressed. "Your investigator contacted mechanics in 3 states before finding me." Elon's expression was unreadable. As previously stated, we needed to consider all legal options. James did not seem convinced, but he let it go. "Well, I'm here now, and I'd like to get to know my nephew, whether or not lawyers are involved." Following that, the conversation turned to practical matters. James was staying at a nearby hotel and planned to be in town for at least a week. He wanted to spend time with Finn, assuming Finn was okay with that. "Perhaps we could get lunch tomorrow," James suggested. "Is it just the 2 of us?" Finn nodded, surprised at how much he wanted to know this man, his only living relative. "Yes, I would like that." Finn agreed to stay at the Musk house for the time being while James and Finn got to know each other better. CPS would have to assess James as a possible guardian, which would take time. As the meeting concluded, Finn led his uncle to the door. "This is a lot to take in," James admitted quietly. "But I want to tell you something. Whether you end up living with me or staying here, you're no longer alone, kid. You have family now." Finn felt a lump on his throat. "Thank you," he said. After James had left, Finn discovered Elon in his office, looking at something on his computer. When Finn entered, he quickly closed the screen. "What did you think about your uncle?" Elon asked. Finn said, "He seems nice." Then, gathering his courage, he asked the question that had been bothering him throughout the day. "Do you want me to live with him?" Elon seemed genuinely surprised. "Why would you think this? You worked really hard to find him. And in the meeting, it appeared that you were pressuring him to take me." "That is not true at all," Elon stated firmly. "I was simply attempting to comprehend his intentions." "So, why try to find him at all? Why not just allow me to stay here?" Elon sighed. "It's complicated, Finn. There are legal requirements. And..." He paused. "I needed to know." "You know what? If you had family who cared about you, who might have a right to be in your life?" Finn wasn't sure he believed the explanation. There was something else, which Elon was not saying. Right then, Xavier burst in. "Finn, I nearly forgot. We are supposed to be packing for the weekend." "Packing?" Finn appeared confused. "For the lake house trip," Xavier explained. "We go every month." "You're coming, Dad, right?" "Of course," Elon replied. Finn should pack a swimsuit and something warm for the evenings. While following Xavier out, Finn noticed something on Elon's desk that had fallen from a folder. An old photo. Curious, he picked it up. It was a photo of a young woman with dark hair and blue eyes. Finn has eyes that look exactly like his. She was laughing at the camera, her arm around someone whose face was obscured by the photo's edge. Finn was stunned when he realized that was his mother. "Where did you get it?" Elon appeared frozen for a moment. "It was in the file that the investigators had assembled," he finally admitted. "About your family." Finn looked at the photograph, then at Elon, whose face had turned unusually pale. Something was not adding up. Finn held onto the photo and said, "I'm keeping this. It's the only picture I've seen of her since Grandma's death." Finn couldn't shake the feeling that the truth about why Elon had taken him in had something to do with this photograph. And to his mother. The lake house was stunning. A modern glass and wood structure that overlooks a sparkling blue lake. Under different circumstances, Finn would have loved to spend the weekend there. But he couldn't stop thinking about the photograph of his mother and Elon's strange reaction when he discovered it. "Come on," Xavier called, having already changed into swimming trunks. The water isn't too cold, so Finn smiled and followed his friend down to the dock. The other Musk children had already started splashing in the water. Even Maya appeared more relaxed outside of the mansion, laughing as she pushed her younger brother off a floating platform. Finn swam and played for a few hours, forgetting about his questions. It felt natural, as if he was just another kid on a family vacation. But that evening, as everyone gathered around a fire pit to roast marshmallows, Finn noticed Elon looking at him with an expression he couldn't read. "Finn," Elon said as the other children went inside to shower. "Would you mind going on a walk with me? There is something I would like to show you." They followed a path around the lake's edge. The sun was setting, transforming the sky into brilliant oranges and pinks. Neither spoke until they got to a small boathouse. "I come here to think sometimes," Elon said, unlocking the door. The interior was a simple room with a desk, a few chairs, and walls covered in papers, photos, and drawings. Finn looked around my private thinking space, which was away from everything, curious. Unlike the high-tech workshop at the mansion, this space felt personal and almost cluttered. Photos of Elon's children at various ages were pinned up alongside scientific diagrams and handwritten notes. "Why have you brought me here?" Finn inquired. Elon sat in one of the chairs and motioned for Finn to take the other. "I've been trying to figure out how to approach this conversation since the day Xavier brought you home." He took a deep breath. "Something about you struck me as familiar the first time I saw you. At first, I couldn't place it." Finn waited with his heart pounding. "Then we started talking about rockets, engineering, and how you think and approach problems. It reminded me of someone I knew many years ago." Elon reached into his pocket and took out a folded photo. "Your mother." He handed the photograph to Finn. It was larger and clearer than the one Finn discovered in the office. In this one, his mother was standing alongside a much younger Elon Musk. They were both smiling, holding a rocket model between them. "You knew my mother?" Finn's voice came out in a whisper. "Yes." Elon's eyes were fixed on the photograph. "Sarah was brilliant, one of the most intelligent people I had ever met. We were both young and enthusiastic about changing the world through technology. We met at a conference where she was presenting findings on fuel efficiency." "When was this?" "About 14 years ago, before I founded SpaceX and before Tesla took off. We dated for almost a year." Finn's mind raced. 14 years ago. He was now 13. The timing. "I haven't heard from her since we broke up." Elon continued. "Our lives took different directions. I was preoccupied with my companies. And she." He paused. "Your uncle mentioned that she fell in with a bad crowd. I was unaware of that part. Why are you telling me this right now?" Finn inquired, although he was beginning to understand. Elon met his gaze directly. "Because when I saw you the first time, something felt familiar. When you started discussing engineering concepts, you demonstrated how your mind works. I recognized some of myself in you. And when I realized how old you were, I began to wonder." Finn's throat felt drier. "What are you wondering?" If there was a reason for such familiarity. A biological explanation. The world seemed to revolve around Finn. "Are you saying something? Are you saying you think you are my father?" "I wasn't sure." Elon replied quickly. "That's why I needed to find your uncle. Why did I need to know about your family situation? And why I?" He averted his gaze for a moment. "Why did I take a DNA sample from your hairbrush?" "You what?" Finn stood up, anger coursing through him. "You tested me without asking?" "I apologize," Elon said. And he really looked it. "I needed to know. For both of our sakes." Finn demanded, despite knowing the answer from the look on Elon's face. The test confirmed this. "I am Finn's biological father." The words remained in the air between them. Finn slumped back into his chair, overwhelmed. Why hasn't my mother told you about me? I've been asking myself the same question, Elon admitted. According to your uncle, she was struggling when you were born. Maybe she assumed I wouldn't want to be involved. Perhaps she was too proud to ask for assistance. I do not know. And now we can't ask her. I've been asking myself the same question, Elon admitted. According to your uncle, she was struggling when you were born. Maybe she assumed I wouldn't want to be involved. Perhaps she was too proud to ask for assistance. I do not know. And now we can't ask her. Finn stared at a photograph of his mother and Elon, his parents together, young and happy. Everything was falling into place. Elon's immediate interest in him, the sense of connection, and their similar thinking styles. Does Xavier know? Do any of your other children know? Elon shakes his head. Not yet. I wanted to tell you first, to make sure you were okay with it, before anyone else knew. And how about my uncle? Does he know? I told him today, before we went to the lake house. That's why I requested to speak with him alone. What exactly did he say? He was shocked, but not completely surprised. He said there had always been rumors about your father's identity, but Sarah never confirmed anything. Finn tried to process all of this information. The scale of it was overwhelming. Elon Musk was his father. He wasn't just some homeless kid that Xavier had taken home out of sympathy. He was. So, what happens now? Finn inquired. That depends on what you want, Elon said. Legally, I can prove paternity and become your guardian. You could stay with us permanently. However, your uncle has also offered to take you in. He wants to be a part of your life, regardless. So, what do you want? Finn inquired, his voice quiet yet steady. For the first time since Finn met him, Elon appeared vulnerable and uncertain. I want to get to know my son and make up for the years I didn't know you existed. I've already missed so much of your life. Your first steps, words, and the first day of school. I can't get them back. But perhaps we can still create something. He trailed off, and Finn realized with surprise that Elon Musk, the man who created rockets, electric cars, and brain implants, was in tears. I understand why you're angry, Elon continued. If you need time or would prefer to live with your uncle. But I want you to know that finding you feels like a second chance I never expected to have. Second chances. That was what Elon had said the first night they talked over hot chocolate. Finn now understood what he had meant. Before Finn could respond, the boathouse door opened, and Xavier burst inside. Dad! Finn! We have been looking everywhere for you. Maya made hot chocolate, and he paused abruptly, looking between them. What's happening? Why are you both looking so serious? Elon cast a silent glance at Finn, asking how he planned to handle the situation. At that point, Finn made a decision. He stood up and turned to Xavier, his friend who had brought him inside from the rain that day, unaware that he was bringing home his own half-brother. Xavier, Finn said, his voice more stable than he expected. There is something you should know. As Finn began to explain, he looked at Elon and his father. And for the first time, he allowed himself to feel the bond that had been developing between them all along. The future remained uncertain, full of complications and adjustments that everyone would have to make. But one thing was obvious. Finn was no longer alone. He had a father, a half-brother, a growing family, and an uncle who wanted to be involved in his life. The homeless boy, who had nothing before, now had more family than he knew what to do with. And as Xavier's mouth dropped open in stunned silence at the news, Finn realized that the title of this story, about Elon Musk's reaction to his son bringing home a homeless friend, had an unexpected twist. Because Finn was more than just a homeless friend. He was Elon's son. He had been all along. Thank you for joining me for this emotional story. Where are you watching from? Please leave your location in the comments below. I love seeing how far this message of kindness has spread around the world. If this story touched your heart, please click the like button to help spread the message of compassion and unexpected family connections to others. Click on the video that is currently playing on your screen to see another heartwarming story that may bring you to tears. Until next time, remember that even the most generous acts of kindness can lead to the most unexpected discoveries.